Hello and welcome back to this rainy Sunday, April 2025. It's been first snow Friday night and then rain all day yesterday, all night long, all day today. Just not heavy rain, just gray and rainy, whatever. It's all part of spring and it's melting what's left of the snow. Over the weekend, and started last week, a friend of mine brought me his 9-inch Ford center section that had 411 gears and a 31 spline spool. He's building a pretty unique, I think it's a Chevy 3 or 5 window coupe body. He's made some crazy, front suspension and rear suspension for it because he's a heck of a fabricator. But asked me if I would install a positive traction that he bought and a 370 ring and pinion in his case with his yoke that he has. He wants to run an alternator off the rear end. So I said I would. He bought all the parts, showed up with them, and I had gone over some of the specifics that you need to know for the 9-inch Ford. And I've got a bunch of videos already, but basically the side bearings on the carrier. This is a 2.89-inch case, 289 side bearing, the smallest that the 9-inch Ford came in. The next step is a 3.06, and then most of your aftermarket stuff, 40 spline stuff's going to be at least a 3.25 bearing, if not like a 3.89. So the bigger the side bearing gets, the more strength you have. It's a common misconception if you compare a Dana 60 rear end to a 9-inch Ford rear end in stock form. The Dana 60 is a lot stronger in stock form. They don't need, they didn't come weak. 9-inch Ford came with a lot of weak stuff. This is a weak case. It's single rib. It's not the quality of the iron they use. When Ford did a good job, they put an N on it for nodular iron. It's just cast. The stock pinion support, nothing special. The bearings are really small. I've done the comparisons. The inner and outer bearing of the pinion are the same size, and they're not very big. So I don't do a lot of stock case rebuilds, and didn't take me long to remember that if you want to run an aftermarket yoke, this is a 1350 yoke, it's a nice one, NASCAR style with a pulley. In a stock pinion support, you need to buy a 1/4-inch spacer that goes on the yoke. The stock Ford yoke is longer when used in this style pinion support. So in order to even make the pinion not do anything, because you don't have enough splines, you need to space the yoke out. So it's, the splines of the pinion are below the nut at the end of the yoke, if you know what I'm saying. So otherwise the yoke would go on too far and you can't take up the distance. So I had to order a spacer. I thought I went through all my 9-inch Ford stuff, which I have in those little plastic shoe boxes. Another area of my life that needs a little more organization, but it's not bad. I didn't have a spacer because I don't do stock stuff very often because it's weak. And I'm not going to, if you're going to step up to a 9-inch Ford, most of the time you don't need this. Now you can build one of these. It's just a hot rod. He's not going to make a ton of power. Light car, probably be fine, but. And you can just change this piece if you have, housing, and this will be 31 spline axles. It's more than adequate for what he's doing. Most of the time, ones I build for people are a lot stronger than this with aftermarket parts. So we ordered the spacer. Also, the kit he bought, like all stock rebuild kits, does not come with a shim kit to eliminate the crush collar. And I prefer, it's just easier. I hate crushing the crush collar. And it's not a permanent solution. It's fine in stock form. In this application, it would have been fine, but for $11 or so, you can buy the kit it goes in between the pinion bearings. And when you get the shim packed right, so your preload is good, forevermore, if you can change these pinion bearings now and just put the shim pack matches the pinion support. And once that is set, you can change out the bearings and everything should go back together the same. So they're kind of a match set, if you get what I'm saying. So I went ahead, I had to order the spacer anyway, told them we needed to upgrade that too. And I just prefer it setting it up. The only hard part about doing this particular one is the yoke. It's a brand new ring and pinion, brand new yoke. Everything is really tight. You have to press it together and press it apart, or pull it apart with a puller. I had to pull the yoke off with a puller and physically press the front pinion bearing off the pinion. So no big deal. Once you get the setup and my press over there and the puller set up, I use a snap-on, like a steering wheel puller, glorified steering wheel puller. And you got to do it. I think it took me 3 tries. I had it too tight, too loose, and then just right. Kind of like Baby Bear's bed there. So that was a piece of cake. And then we finally put the carrier in. And like most 9-inch Fords, there was an interference fit between this area here and the tail bearing in the case. The casting for it had to be relieved a little bit. But once we did that, it wasn't so bad. The spanners in this particular case, you can have these bolts tightened and have them torqued, and the spanners still work nice. And I found the interference. I like to set the carrier in, run this side in so I have no lash, tighten this side up to try to push it away. That way you know you got, I don't go for preload yet, but you know you're tight. And then I just, to adjust the backlash, back this off 1 notch, because eventually the hole has to be lined up with these locks. So I back one off, I tighten one up, and I move it back and forth that way. And then when I'm ready to put preload in, I put it in on this side, trying to force it away. I don't want to make the backlash tighter, and it should just put preload on both bearings. So that's what I do. The pattern was easy to find once I got the backlash figured out. I knew I had a clearance problem. I'd go to take the backlash out, and I couldn't get it much less than 15 thousandths, and then this would stop. I said, okay, something's hitting, and sure enough, with the flashlight, you could see it hitting the case. So other than that, it should be a nice unit for them. The recommended, there's charts around these. I found this online, the stock carrier. You start with like a 22 thousandths shim. I tried it a few thousandths either way, and the 22 thousandths shim, first try, I should have left it, was the best option from a pattern perspective. So that was that. One more note, taped to the kit was the factory Ford copper washers that go on the mounting studs. Also came with a gasket. This, if I'm going to use a gasket, I'm going to use a lube locker or something a little more significant than this. Velcro makes a pretty decent one. This stock one's pretty thick, but you got to paint it with something. It's going to be a bear to get off. You're not going to be able to reuse it. With the right reusable differential gasket, you can just swap this out. It's a whole lot easier. I had a little bit of time this week when I wasn't busy hauling more junk back to the house. Remember the video I did last weekend on being too full? Well, I made a few more trips, and I'm still sorting through that stuff. Everything at this point, every area I have needs to be cleaned. And I'm going to dedicate some time this year to haul some stuff to the swap meet. There's one every Sunday, the last Sunday of every month, I should say, all summer long at New England Dragway. And I'll be down there trying to sell some stuff. But I had some time to get the engine mounted. I haven't done the mid plate yet, but it's sitting in there with no other supports. I leveled the engine to the chassis, and just for kicks, after I was done and the engine would transmission would stay by themselves, I lowered the lift down. I had to put a spacer under here, so now the truck is uphill on the lift. It was perfectly level. And I wanted to try these headers back on. I have my questions about them, but I had them and they kind of fit. Not sure I'm in love with them, but here we go. I decided to level the cab on the frame. I had it down in the front about 3/4 of an inch. I thought it looked okay that way, but the headers still, if you look at it, the headers are going uphill right here, and they're designed for a car with the motor pointing down a little bit. So obviously my engine's level to the frame, my cab's now level to the frame, the header should be even with the under the door ultimately, but it's not. However, I showed you a picture of the other side. Hold on. All right, I have you on the teepee here so I can just jack you up. So these headers are old, and I got my reservations about them. Not in love with their looks, but they technically kind of fit. For exhaust pipe from here, there was some short extensions that I had to wrestle off there, hence the rusted piece you can see. And the black thing is a muffler. It's pretty much straight through. It's like for a stock car. But the rest of it, the coated piece, it's not stainless, it's some kind of coated steel, has a glass pack in it as well. So I thought that combo wouldn't be too annoying. Here's another view. It's just propped up here on the lift. But I could make the gap over, between the pipe and the door, so the door clears it. And if you notice the other side, the head is still pointing uphill. I can kind of cheat that out of it and you really don't notice it. Is it ideal? Well, I'm not sure. I don't have much money in the black muffler and these pieces, and I could always cut them back off, but I'm still debating building headers or not. So in the most likely event I'm going to build a set of headers, there's a couple of issues I got to deal with. One, this set of heads on this mock-up motor, like most stock Chevy heads, they have a square exhaust port. Aftermarket heads, and when I bought the Airflow Research heads for the 496 that's going to go in here, this 47 Ford pickup, the set of heads I chose, there's only two types of castings out there for aftermarket aluminum heads. Some have square exhaust ports. They're less desirable all around than the ones with the D port or round ports. But as long as you have at least a 2-inch primary tube, the blue set is 2 1/8. They're ample sized, and this 2-inch port flange, the square lies within, it almost matches up to the 2-inch port. So if you have 1 7/8 headers, you're going to have a leak if you have square exhaust ports and round headers. They make square headers, we have to, use that, but most of the headers flanges you see are round. Over the years, there's been people scratching their heads why their header flanges leak. Well, you got a mismatch. But I have, just the other day, and some of the stuff I brought back, 2 sets of these stainless flanges in 2-inch. And a lot of the weld-up kits, I'm just going to buy a mild steel weld-up kit. They come with or without flanges. So I have a 2-inch flange. I know it's going to work, even though I have square ports. And choosing to build my own headers, I don't think, because originally I tried Model A fenders on here, and where the apron would go, I wanted my exhaust to shoot down through there. But in reality, it's probably not going to work. So I'm okay not running them. I don't have to have them. I just kind of liked full fendered stuff. I'm going to have rear fenders just because I think it'll look better with the rear bed situation, but time will tell. But if I build my own headers, I can correct all this. And what makes me nervous about these blue headers, I mean, they're kind of cool. They're old. I can see them hanging in the speed shop where they were. Before they were painted, I don't think they've ever been run, but they're really pitted. And when I pop the extension pieces off it, I don't know how thick it is now. Again, this is really pitted. I don't know if you can see it, but these have been pretty rusty at some point. So I'd hate to weld my other pipes onto it and then within a year or so get a hole in it. Now on the other side of that, the big block's only temporary. I gotta fix the blown small block and put it in where it belongs. You know, I may love it with the big block, I may never change it. So for relatively short money, I think Jegs has the weld up kits, 2-inch primary, sprint car style, and tube chassis style, like 179 bucks. So without flanges, I already have flanges. It's gonna take multiple days of effort, but I've done it before. Mild steel header kits aren't too difficult, especially if I'm just doing something like this over the frame and level. I once mocked up both sides of a Nova I was building in an hour. Just tacked it both together. So not necessarily that difficult. A couple hours of welding, but hey, I need the practice. So that's it for today. Nothing real exciting. There's lots of other things I could bore you with, but this video probably accomplished that already. I hope you're enjoying your Sunday, and I'll catch you soon, a couple days.